Fellow Toastmasters and friends, good evening and welcome to this video about the club coach assignment process. Please go ahead and use this video as a reference or a guide when it comes to being assigned as a club coach. This version of the club coach agreement and process is going to be the most recent version up to April 2022. If there are any new updates, of course it wouldn't be in this video, so please go ahead and check Toastmasters International first if this is the most recent one. First, we're going to be talking about the requirements before you become a club coach. Second, we're going to be talking about some expectations of you as a club coach. And third, we're going to get into the club coach assignment process. Our reference document is the club coach agreement form. It's going to look like this here on the screen, and we're going to guide you through the different parts of the club coach agreement form. Let's start off with the requirements to be a club coach. You can find these in here, the directions portion of the club coach agreement form. The first point also comes as a reminder, it's not a requirement of you as a coach, but of the club. The club should have at least 3 members, but not more than 12 members. If at any point before the assignment, the club reaches 13 members or more, they are not eligible anymore to be assigned a coach. Now let's get into the requirements that you actually need before you can be a club coach. First, you can't have been a member of your club you want to coach in the past 6 months. Second, you need to be an active member of Toastmasters for at least a year, and you should have already served as a club officer in either 1 whole term or 2 semi-annual terms, so an equivalent of 12 months. The third requirement is an education requirement. You need to have finished at least level 2 in any pathway, or if you're part of the legacy curriculum, at the very least, you need to have completed Advanced Leader Bronze or Advanced Communicator Bronze. The fourth requirement is the newest requirement, asking both the club officers of the to-be coached club and the prospective club coach to actually take up and complete the club coach program training module in BaseCamp. This is the newest iteration of the club coach training, which used to be held at the district level previously. So instead of having all of the club coaches in the whole district come together for a training session, probably in multiple sessions, instead, the club coaches and the club officers can take this training at their own pace through the ease of BaseCamp. Let's move on to the agreement portion of the document. In this part of the document, it's going to talk about the different expectations that the club has on you as a club coach. Starting off with the first requirement, the period of service is a minimum of 6 months by June 30th, the end of the Toastmasters year, meaning that the time frame in which a coach can be assigned to a club is only within the first 6 months of the Toastmasters year. That means that the club coach can only be assigned until December 31st. If the club coach assignment is going to be assigned in, let's say, January 2024, it's not going to be a legal assignment anymore because it's going to be less than the minimum 6-month requirement. The second requirement is very straightforward. You can only coach 1 club at a time. The third requirement is a new requirement stating that you can't become a member of the club that you're coaching. Previously, it might not have been explicitly mentioned in the rules, but now we are clarifying it when you cannot become a member of the club you're coaching. The fourth update is probably the most important update of this iteration of the club coach agreement. Now, we are going to submit a series of reports once we have been assigned as a club coach. Let me just read this part. They must complete and submit the club coach preliminary report within 30 days of appointment, the club coach progress report every 60 days, and the club coach final report once their term of service has ended. What does this look like if you're a club coach? Once you're officially assigned as a coach, when we get that feedback from Toastmasters International, in the first 30 days, you're going to have an initial report on the club. After your first report, every 60 days, you're going to submit an update report, and you're only going to need to submit the club coach final report once the term of service has ended. Meaning that in the following June 30 after your assignment, if you are going to continue your service, you're not going to need to submit a club coach final report because it's not yet the end. So you're just going to continue submitting the club coach progress reports until ultimately the club reaches distinguished and you are going to finally submit your final report. The last 4 points here on the agreement portion of the document is in reference to how you receive the credit for your club coach. The first point is considering education. This is what we would have considered the entirety of the club coach credit in the previous iterations. This is just concerning whether the club achieves distinguished or higher under your term as a club coach. The second point is actually a very interesting point because now you have the option to earn your district leader credit through a very successful club coach. So it says here, the club coach district leadership credit is also granted if the club achieves 20 or more members in addition to the club being distinguished or better by the June 30 following the completion of the minimum 6-month requirement. What does this mean? It means that if the club that you're coaching at the end of the term has 20 or more members and you achieve the distinguished or higher status, not only do you get a club coach credit, but you also get a district leader credit as well. This is especially helpful for people who are trying to achieve their distinguished Toastmaster norm because now this allows you to bypass the need for an area director or higher role. The third point here might actually be the most critical requirement. Previously, once the club hits distinguished status, you're immediately going to receive your club coach credit. However, now, in this iteration, before you receive the credit, the club president or the club officer delegate must notify world headquarters in writing through a letter or an email that the club coach was successful. This is also to prevent situations where the club is already on the natural incline and the club coach didn't actually aid or assist the club in their success. Last but not the least for this section, if the club coach is unsuccessful, the appointment can be extended for 2 additional program years. Moving on to the last part of the form, here are some requirements for the club president or delegated officer and the district officer or the designated district representative, in our case, the club growth director. For the club president, they need to encourage officers and members in actively pursuing distinguished status or better. Second, they need to encourage officers and members in actively achieving 20 members or better. And last but not the least, invite club coaches to club officer meetings or execo meetings. So this portion also reminds us that the club coach isn't there to save a club which doesn't want to save itself. The club needs to work together with the coach, and it shouldn't be only the coach trying to push the club up. We need to work together to rise together. Last but not the least, here for our club growth director in our case, we need to submit this form to the world headquarters, read and respond as appropriate to club coach reports, and last but not the least, ensure club coaches undergo the coach 360 evaluation. The last part of the form is the confirmation of the entirety of the document. So this needs to be signed by the 2 club coaches if there are 2, the club president or whoever is the delegate of the club, and last but not the least, the district director or again in our case, the club growth director. Let's move on to the last part of the video, which is the coach assignment process. Step 0. First and foremost, we need to make sure that both you and the club that you're interested in coaching are eligible to come into the club coach agreement. So this involves you and the club officers taking the coaching module in BaseCamp and also completing the other requirements as specified earlier in the video. Step number 1 is for the club coach and the club to accomplish the coach agreement form. Step number 2 is forwarding the signed agreement form to the division in charge. That can be your division director, your division PQD, division CGD, or whoever is in charge of your division or handling your coaching process. Step number 3 is for the division in charge to forward this form, which is signed by everybody, to our club growth director, who will also affix his or her signature and then forward that mail to Toastmasters International. After the club growth director has forwarded the form to Toastmasters International, we just need to wait for feedback before we can see that the club coach is officially assigned. Once we receive feedback from Toastmasters International, congratulations! Now you're officially assigned as a club coach. Thank you for watching this video, and just as an important reminder, I need to reiterate. Remember, you need to be officially assigned as a club coach before the year ends. Whatever year it is, you need to be assigned before the end of December. Once it rolls over into January, it's always going to be less than 6 months remaining, and you cannot be assigned as a club coach anymore. I've added additional resources in the description of this video. So if you need any club coach FAQs, I've linked that in the Toastmasters website down below, as well as the club coach agreement form. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the comments below or send me a message on Facebook Messenger or through the email indicated in the description as well. This has been Menario, the Visayas lead for District 75 Retention and Care Group team for this Toastmasters year of 2023 to 2024. It has been an eventful Monday, so here's a reminder to keep learning and keep having fun. God bless, and see you in the next video.